Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our free webinar, Tips and Tricks for Telemedicine Insurance Billing in Massachusetts, featuring Sarit Hirschkorn. My name is Jeff Bloom, Education Marketing Manager here at LASA OMS. With the current state of the acupuncture profession, the nation, and the world, we have decided to add to our webinar offerings to bring in experts in telemedicine, practice management, and insurance billing, in addition to our traditional clinical skills-based webinars. Our guest speaker today has graciously agreed to offer sessions each day for specific states so we can focus the content and share the most relevant with you. I will just go through a few housekeeping items now. We do recommend viewing the webinar in Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, as you may experience slowness in other browsers. If you end up having any issues with sound or video, please try clicking the screen to allow sound or try refreshing the page. Also, with pretty much any technical difficulties, refreshing the page or switching to another browser is the best option to try first. And also, everyone who registered for this event will receive a link 5 minutes after we conclude to watch the webinar on demand afterwards. I would also like to mention that we will not be sharing the slides for this discussion, and the reason being that this information is changing almost daily. So this has been researched up until last night, but if we share the slides and the information changes next week, we just want to make sure that you're aware that this information is relevant for today, but tomorrow it could be different. Lastly, we will be holding questions till the end of the lecture. If you have a question for the guest speaker, please use the questions tab and make sure to ask it at the end. If you'd like to communicate any technical difficulties or chat with other attendees, please use the chat tab. Now for our featured speaker. We are proud to introduce Sarit Hirschkorn. Sarit is co-founder and co-owner of AllAcuServices, LLC, a company specializing in insurance billing services for acupuncturists, massage therapists, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists, and social workers. After spending nearly 2 decades working in corporate benefits outsourcing for multi-million-dollar companies such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, ACS, and Mellon Bank, Sarit now applies her deep knowledge and understanding of the insurance industry to the field of insurance billing for holistic healthcare practitioners. Please join me in welcoming Sarit.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So as Jeffrey said, my name is Sarit Hirschkorn. I am the co-owner and co-founder of a company called AllAcuServices. My partner, Robert Venna, is a licensed acupuncturist in the state of New York and in the state of New Jersey. What I want to do today is I want to go through some terminology. So I want to explain what telehealth is versus telemedicine. I also want to go through what it is that an acupuncturist can bill for under telemedicine. We'll talk about the frequency of how often we can bill for these codes. And then we'll talk about actually how to create a claim, how many minutes, what modifiers we use, how long, how often we should submit for the claim. And then we'll talk about how do I charge? How do I know what to charge for these codes? So I won't tell you what to charge, but what I'll do is I will give you a formula that will help you with calculating what to charge based on what it is that you are charging today. In the end, we'll review a couple of insurance companies and we'll show you a high-level view of what these insurance companies are offering. And then we'll talk about consent and HIPAA. So why don't we get started? We'll start with some terminology. And we'll start with the terminology of what is telehealth. So telehealth is the use of electronic information and communication by a provider to provide services for his patient. Things such an assessment of diagnosis, consultation, the treatment, maybe educating your patient, care management, and then self-management of the patient. So that's the overall terminology for telehealth. With that said, one of the items that falls under telehealth is the use of telemedicine. Telemedicine focuses on electronic use such as email, texts, phone calls, maybe using your fax and then live stream video with your patient. And we'll talk about what we can and cannot do when we talk about the state law. Okay. The law also says that it has to be a patient-initiated procedure. And when we ask how it has to be a patient-initiated procedure, you can reach out to your patient and let them know, A, that you're offering telemedicine, and B, that you're there for them. So if they want to talk, you are available. They can schedule a call with you or a discussion with you in whatever methods that you are using today. The telemedicine is considered to be an evaluation. The same evaluation that you would do when a patient sits with you in the office is the evaluation that you're going to do when the patient sits in front of you on a screen, on a live screen, or on the phone. As an acupuncturist, we're so used to being hands-on and putting in needles with the patient, but we also do other things such as Tuina and Moxa, and we put in ear seeds, and we'll see how we can put those things into use when we are providing telemedicine without being with the patient in the room. The law also tells us that telemedicine has to be used for an existing patient. However, when we talk about the different insurance companies, we'll see what they did specifically for COVID-19 to allow not just existing patients, but also new patients. So the law tells us that it has to be an existing patient that is already under your care for either acute or chronic pain. And if you are using the phone to talk to your patient, the law tells us that if you are seeing your patient within the next 24 hours, so your conversation leads to you seeing the patients within the next 24 hours, we're not going to charge for the telemedicine, but we will be charging for the acupuncture procedure. I want to focus for 1 second on just the state laws about telemedicine in Massachusetts. So telemedicine, Massachusetts as a state does allow telemedicine. However, what they don't allow is, it says on the last sentence of the first paragraph is what we're looking at, it shall not include audio only, fax, right, or email. So if you were a Medicaid patient, okay, and you have coverage for telemedicine under Medicaid, okay, we cannot use the phone, we cannot use a fax, and we cannot use email to communicate with our patients. And if we did use a phone, you cannot charge for telemedicine. So the state of Massachusetts wants you to use a live stream video where you can hear me and I can hear you, right, when you're providing these services. They also tell you, they continue to tell you that under the law in Massachusetts, if you were a Medicaid, and this is specifically focuses on Medicaid, not commercial insurance. We'll talk about commercial insurance in a second. But if you are a Medicaid patient, they also tell you that it has to be a covered service under your plan, i.e., if you're an acupuncturist, and acupuncture is not a covered service under that patient's plan, the plan has the right to exclude you from telemedicine as well, okay? With that said, private insurance companies such as Aetna, Cigna, United, Blue Cross of Massachusetts, Tufts, can adopt this law, or they can adopt it and add on to it. And we'll see what they have done when we focus on the different insurance companies. Okay, so what will I be doing when I provide telemedicine services with my patient? So because I'm not sitting with a patient in a room, my focus will be an evaluation, okay? I can discuss the patient's condition that maybe they are exhibiting today or conditions they exhibited in the past, okay? I can do a tongue diagnosis. We can show the patient Qigong exercise, Tai Chi, yoga. You can show them a couple of exercises, something that they can take away and then do on their own, or you can do the exercise with them. Meditation, right? So sit and meditate with your patient or give them guidance on meditation. Nutrition, you can discuss nutrition, what eating habits they're having, especially when most of us are home. Anything to boost their immune system is something else that you can discuss with your patient. You can even give them guidance on self-acupressure. So you can give them trigger points on places that they can press themselves, not being with you in the same room. Maybe the use of hot and cold packs depends on what they're suffering from. And if you are giving your patient today herbs, either via pills or herbs that they need to cook. You can discuss how they should be taking those herbs, how they should be cooking those herbs, also something that you can be discussing with them. Use of ear seeds. So we have many clients that have sent their patients ear seeds. They are spending the time with their patient, placing the ear seeds on the ear while they're doing the consultation with the patient. Put this as a note, and we'll talk about this in a second on how we're going to use this, is decision-making and notes preparation. So all of that will go into the total time that you count towards your evaluation. You'll see that when we get to how the codes are measured, they're measured in time. So let's talk about them realistically. So we're looking at 3 different categories of codes. We're looking at codes of 5 to 10 minutes. We're then looking at codes of 11 to 20 minutes. And then last is 21 minutes or over. Okay. So if I had a session scheduled with Jeffrey and the discussions took about 60 minutes, I can only charge for 1 code. Okay, because all these codes are or, not an and. We're not adding them all up, right? If I spend more than 21 minutes with Jeffrey in the live stream video, I am going to charge for $99423. Now, what's going to go into my minutes and how I decide how many minutes I'm going to charge for? So, first of all, before I meet with Jeffrey, I spent 5 minutes reviewing the notes for the last session that I spent with Jeffrey. So those 5 minutes, I'm gonna write them down and I'm gonna add them into my time spent with the patient. I'm then gonna spend 10 minutes with Jeffrey in a session, okay? I'm now gonna add those 10 minutes. And last, when I'm done with Jeffrey, I'm gonna take 5 minutes to actually document all the things that I discussed with Jeffrey during our session. If I did a tongue diagnosis, I will write, right, the colors of the tongue, what I saw on the tongue, etc. Right? If I spend time doing ear seeds, I'll document that as well. And all together, right, I'll add my 5 minutes, my preparation, my 10 minutes Jeffrey on the phone, and another 5 minutes where I documented the actual session. That adds up to 20 minutes, and I'm going to charge for $99422 because that's the total time that I spent with Jeffrey. Now, how many times can I charge for this code? Can I have a session with Jeffrey every day? Yes, and have a session with Jeffrey every day. However, you can only charge for telemedicine codes once every 7 days. So look at the total minutes spent with Jeffrey throughout the 7 days, and that's what you're going to be charging for. Now, there's always an exception to the rule. The exception is that if Jeffrey presented a new diagnosis, I can charge for telemedicine again, right? So if today's discussion with Jeffrey was about back pain, and Jeffrey contacts me tomorrow and he's suffering from terrible migraines, I can charge a brand new session for telemedicine again for Jeffrey, okay? And that's because he has a totally different diagnosis. Now, when we look at these codes, you have to think of them as evaluation codes. And usually when we bill for an evaluation code, there's a separation between new patient and existing patient, right? So when we look at regular E&M codes or evaluation, we'll look at 99201 all the way to 99205, which are for brand new patients, versus existing patients, we bill for 99211 all the way to 99215 for an existing patients. Here, in this particular case, there's no differentiation between new and existing. Why isn't there a differentiation? Because these codes were made for existing patient, not new patient, okay? We'll talk about what we do with new patients when we get to talk about the different insurance companies. When you bill for these codes, we're seeing that we have 2 different categories. We have a category for a video, real-time live stream video. And then we see that we have codes for a phone conversation with the patients. It's identical, right, in terms of how you measure the time. What's not identical, you see that there's a difference in digits, right? So instead of using 99421, we use 99441, okay? Furthermore, when you are submitting the claim, and we'll take a look at that, place of service, instead of putting 11, we're going to put 02 in column B. And what we're going to put as a modifier is 95. You make sure that when you're done with the session, you are documenting the session as if the patient was sitting right then and there in front of you, okay? If today you're using a hard copy for an evaluation, you're going to use hard copy going forward. If you're using electronic copy, right, in whatever system that you are using, whatever EHR system that you're using, continue using the same system going forward. How do I figure out what to charge for these codes? So you have to look at what you are charging for 97810, which is one set of needling. I'd like to make things really easy especially when it comes to math. So I am going to say that I charge $100 for the first set of needling. If I charge $100 for the first set of needling for code 99421 or 99441, I'm going to charge about 40% of that, and I'm just rounding things down. So I will charge $40. For code 99422 or 99442, they're about the same range. So I'm just going to take 80%, although it tells me 86% on one and 78% on the other of what I charge on 97810. I would charge about $80. And the last codes, you see they have a value that is actually greater than what I charge for the one set of needling. And so I charge about $120 for that last set. What I want to now, before I get to talk about the different insurance companies, I am going to ask Jeffrey to bring up the form, the HIPAA form that I fill out. And I want to show you how to submit that session. So there's going to be only one line item on the form. And what you'll have is a start and an end date. You can see in column B, you have the place of service, which is 02. You'll put in the CPT code or the procedure codes that you've been using depending on the time that you spent with your patient. So for our example, because I spent 20 minutes with Jeffrey, I'm going to put 99422 with a modifier of 95. Okay. Let's go back to our presentation, and what I'll do now is I want to talk about the different insurance companies and what they're allowing and not allowing, and we'll talk about some differences that we are seeing with regard to the different insurance companies. So for starters, this is really, you need to take this chart with a grain of salt. It changes on a daily basis. So what we're seeing today may be totally different tomorrow. Okay, we're seeing the many insurance companies are waiving the copays, the co-insurance, and even the deductibles. Some insurance companies published on their site they are allowing telemedicine, and they published the actual date they started allowing telemedicine for some providers, and when the telemedicine is going to end. So if we look at Aetna, for example, Aetna told us that they're starting it, I think March, it was the beginning of March, and they are ending it June 4th. I would keep on checking, because if the pandemic continues and the country continues to be closed or shut, as we know it today, the insurance companies may extend the deadline. Okay, as of right now, they are publishing June 4th. American Specialty Health. So if you are participating with ASH, or what we know as American Specialty Health, they are right now not allowing telemedicine at all. Not only they are not allowing it, but if they are administering anybody's else's insurance, i.e. for Blue Cross or for United or for any other insurance company, because they haven't received the guidelines, they're not allowing telemedicine in any shape or form, not via video or phone calls. Cigna, and I want to take a close look at Cigna in 1 second, is allowing telemedicine. They are waiving the copays and co-insurances. They told us both in-network and out-of-network. And then Blue Cross Blue Shield of MA have started allowing telemedicine as of March 16th, and they're allowing until Massachusetts gets out of being a state of emergency. So they haven't published a date either. what we are seeing with Blue Cross Blue Shield in Massachusetts is that if you're not an in-network provider, but you're willing to accept in-network prices and you sign some sort of form with them, they may waive the copay, coinsurance, and the deductible. Tufts, which in the beginning of the year also added acupuncture, they added about 20 sessions. Depending on the patient's plan, they may allow telemedicine. Now, I want to talk about that because I want to make sure that it's super clear. These are just high-level general for the patients that we have looked at and checked. You have to keep in mind that every patient can have a different plan. And if acupuncture wasn't allowed before, it doesn't mean that telemedicine will be allowed now. Most likely, it will not be allowed. So if your patient didn't have acupuncture coverage, for the most part, they probably will not have telemedicine, okay? If your patient had acupuncture coverage, you need to call the insurance company and verify that they have coverage for telemedicine. The things that you want to ask are, does my patient have coverage for telemedicine when provided by a licensed acupuncturist? Do they have a copay or is it waived? Are you waiving the deductible? Are you waiving the co-insurance? Do I need an authorization for this? If your patient was allowed to do an evaluation, but there was a limit on the number of evaluations that the patient had, you want to ask if the evaluation is now being reduced because you're providing telemedicine, okay? You want to take the person's name that you spoke to. You want to write a call reference number, because in the event that you were told, yes, it is covered, and later on they're not covering it, you want to have some sort of a way to then appeal their decision with the discussion that you had with them, because they can pull all the calls get recorded. You want them to be able to pull those calls. So it would be good that you documented who you spoke to, the call reference number, the date and time that you spoke to them, because you can use that in your appeal. I'll focus on Cigna. Both Cigna and Aetna, and I know you guys, when we first started this session, I said that this is specifically focusing on existing patient. And that's why the codes, we only have one set of codes. However, Cigna published on their site that this telemedicine can be used both for existing and new patients. So they added new patients as well. They're trying to limit the number of patients that are going to the emergency rooms, to the hospitals, to those urgent cares, as much as they can. Cigna also told us that they prefer that we use our regular E&M codes. So if you're seeing a patient today and you're doing an evaluation in your office, you would be charging an E&M code, a 99211, a 99212, etc. They wanted to use the same codes with an office location of 11, pay attention, modifier of GQ, not your regular modifier of 25, but the modifier GQ, okay? GQ is another way of letting the insurance company know that this was done via telemedicine. Many of us, are saying, okay, well, I don't have a system to use telemedicine. How do I do how do I use it? Can I use FaceTime? Can I use Zoom? Those systems are not HIPAA compliant. Can you use them? Yes, you can. You can use them during the COVID-19 pandemic. And HIPAA is not enforced. They're not enforcing the HIPAA penalties during COVID-19. However, I would strongly suggest that you use a HIPAA compliant system, because what we don't want to do is compromise our patients' data. I want to go to the last slide, and these are just some links that we found that are providing some sort of a free version of a HIPAA compliant system, i.e. maybe they're giving us a system that allows us a certain number of patients, and if you go over that limit, it's no longer free, or they're allowing you a free month, which is like a trial month for free, and thereafter they charge. Jeffrey, I don't remember what Doxy.me charges, but it's also a very reasonable rate. It wasn't crazy. So these are, and feel free to take a screenshot of that if you want to look into these systems. Jeffrey's saying that he thinks they start for free. We know that Jane does have an EHR system that allow you to use telemedicine, and it is free if you have Jane, because you have, probably you're using Jane already. Also, unified practice. I want to talk about consent. Please, please, please make sure you are getting your patient's consent to provide telemedicine. One of the things that we want to see inside that consent, and I'm not an attorney, this is just an advice, is that if the data does get compromised, you are not liable for the data being compromised. I know Jeffrey talked about it more in the end of the session before we go and open it to questions, that we have another acupuncturist. We're doing these sessions every day. I think we started a national tour here with these sessions. And one of the acupuncturists on that session gave us what they found on Google. I haven't reviewed it. Jeffrey hasn't reviewed it. An attorney hasn't reviewed it. None of us reviewed it. We suggest you take a look at it. It is a consent. Have somebody review it. Feel free to read it, change it, do whatever you want with it. It's not something that came out of AllAcuServices or LASA. I want to make sure it's clear. It's something that an actress was using, found it, and told us that they've been using it. Okay. United, as of right now, we're not seeing them pay for sessions. They told us to use the regular E&M codes, so that's what you should be using. I am going to open it now for questions. So Jeffrey, I'm going to give it back to you. And if we need to go over again the calculation of the minutes, I'll be happy to do so.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We do have a few questions here. So in the chat, it looks like a few people are asking if you know anything about United, Harvard Pilgrim, or it looks like United and Harvard Pilgrim are the two that were just recently mentioned.
So Harvard Pilgrim is kind of tricky. It does depend on the patient's plan. You need to make sure that you verify if the patient has coverage. Harvard Pilgrim actually is part of United. So United as an umbrella initially told us they're not covering telemedicine. Changed as we go along through these sessions because we are checking daily. They now told us to use the regular EM codes. I can't recall if Harvard Pilgrim pays for EM codes. As far as I'm concerned, they weren't paying for evaluation, but once again, call them, verify the coverage, and be sure you ask if a licensed acupuncturist can administer these sessions.
Okay. And then Jeff asks, how does one stay updated on if insurance companies are actually covering it? Should they check daily? Should they check weekly? And then where's the best place to check?
So the best place to check is on their website. I mean, if you don't want to drive yourself crazy, I wouldn't say check daily. We're checking daily because we do have clients. We have patients nationwide everywhere. Sorry. And I'm not sure if I lost you, Jeffrey, for a second.
Nope, we still hear you.
Okay. So we have patients nationwide, and we happen to make plenty of phone calls to these insurance companies, so we're lucky enough we check daily. However, I would say in the end of the week, probably good for you to check on their website, and they'll let you know if you have a patient who's interested in services, just call it in. So, they will tell you.
And then it looks like somebody just commented saying that Harvard Pilgrim doesn't usually cover E&M codes.
Right, and that's why I don't think they will pay for it. But again, right, it depends on the patient's coverage. Call and find out if you can use the telemedicine code, specifically if you're in network with Harvard Pilgrim and they cover acupuncture.
Okay. And then somebody else is following up about United Healthcare and says, so now United Healthcare says to use regular E&M with O2 Office and 95 modifier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's for United.
Yes. And I just want to add to that if they happen not to pay for it, just retry in with 11 and the GQ. You could always submit a corrected claim. So, they themselves are trying to update their system with the telemedicine. Most of them were not equipped to handle so many telemedicine sessions or claims. So that's why Cigna, and you can see Cigna up front came and said, hey, we can't handle this. Please just use E&M codes because we want to make sure that the patients are covered, they don't get burdened with the financial responsibility, and the provider gets paid. So that's what Cigna told us to use.
Okay. And in your opinion, do you think verbal consent with patient or telehealth is enough if they document it in their chart?
I wouldn't take a verbal consent. I'm going to say verbal doesn't exist, needs to be in writing. My dad always told me, make sure you have stuff in writing. God forbid the data gets compromised. I would want to protect myself. So I would definitely get a written consent. Okay.
And then a few people have asked about Always partners.
I'm not sure about Always. We didn't call Always, so I don't know. I can't answer that. It's something we're going to need to research.
Okay, it looks like there might be a few more questions added too. Let's see. And then how about the, let's see, somebody asked about herbal consults. Did you say that herbal consults are covered?
Absolutely. You have to remember that this is a session where you're doing an evaluation, and while you're sitting in front of that person, or just like I'm talking to Jeffrey now, Jeffrey and I can talk about herbs. Jeffrey and I can talk about his condition. Jeffrey and I can look at his tongue. I can do ear seeds. So yes, herbal consult do count towards telemedicine.
Perfect. And then let's see, are we using the same procedure codes?
I'm not sure I'm clear on this question because the procedure code is we discussed here. Those are the procedure codes.
So the procedure code is going to be the digital evaluation code or the phone evaluation code.
Exactly. Either one, depending on the insurance company and what they tell you to use. And believe it or not, you can call the insurance company and say, hey, I want to use code 99422 by a licensed acupuncturist. Is it covered? If the answer is no, then ask them, okay, can I then use for telemedicine 99213? Because they are not always familiar with E&M codes, right? So what you may call E&M codes, the reps that are sitting on the other side of the phone may not know what you're referring to. Best thing to do is give them the actual code.
Alrighty. Do you know anything about the VA?
So VA is allowing to us to do telemedicine. They want us to use the regular evaluation codes, the regular E&M codes. It does take away from the visit limit, okay? Usually in the package, when you open the packet for your VA, you get a start date, an end date, the number of sessions, and then it also lists somewhere in your packet what codes you should be using. Your acupuncture codes, maybe the modalities, and the evaluation codes. Make sure the evaluation codes are actually listed there, and if they're not, go back to your VA rep that you're working with and ask them to amend the package.
All right. What are your thoughts on super bills?
Go for it. You want to charge for a session directly to your patient? Feel free to do so, right? Us billing the insurance company, we have to remember that us as an acupuncturist, billing insurance company is the same as giving your patient a super bill. What am I doing by billing the insurance company? I'm providing a service to my patient. The service is, hey, don't worry about submitting this claim. I will do it for you. And in turn, the insurance company, right, will either pay you or me, and then you'll give me the check, but you don't have to worry about it, right? So it's a service, but it's absolutely the same as giving a super bill. So feel free to charge your patient up front and send them a super bill. You can do that.
Okay. Next question. Does your company offer a complete list of insurance companies that currently cover acupuncture services in Mass, as well as the most current list of insurance companies that cover telemedicine for acupuncture?
We absolutely have a list, but the list belongs to AllAcuServices. So I try to share the list with you guys on this webinar, specifically for the state, but yes, we have a list. We keep everything in databases, yes.
Okay. Well, Shelly, if you're interested in learning more from Sarit, we can get you, I'll actually put a website into the chat so then you can get in contact with AllAcuServices and maybe learn a little bit more about what they can offer you. And let's see, we do still have a few more questions here, so that link is now in there. Let's see, give me 1 second here. And then What about Tufts or neighborhood plan?
So Tufts, as I said before, they just added acupuncture this year, right? So there was something new that they did. You have to call them and find out if under that particular plan that they added the acupuncture, if you can perform telemedicine. That is true for every insurance company. So the insurance companies that I listed are companies that we have called for our patients. We called, I think, one Tufts person, and the person was not covered. Does it mean that all the patients are covered? Absolutely not. So the reason that I didn't put it on my chart is because I didn't want you to think that all the Tufts patients now are not covered, because that would not be a true statement.
Okay. And it looks like we have a few people that would like you to go over the timing aspect again, which were on that current slide. So maybe a good time to do that.
Okay. You know, Jeffrey, that you're going to be doing that next. We've been doing enough sessions.
I think we're up to 10 now.
Okay, so I want to go through the timing. So timing includes everything that you spent with your patient in the beginning of the week, all the way through the end of the 7 days, right? So it's not a week per se. It's a session for every 7 days. So if I see Jeffrey today's Wednesday, and I kind of forget what days it is today already. It's crazy. But yeah, today's Wednesday, and I'm spending some time with Jeffrey today. Before I meet with Jeffrey, I like to review the chart. If you're reviewing the chart for 2 minutes, document that 2 minutes review of chart, okay? The time you spent with Jeffrey on the phone, on video, maybe texting Jeffrey before that, add it all into your minutes, okay? When I'm done with Jeffrey's session, I now take my time to document everything that I've discussed with Jeffrey on that phone conversation, on that live chat with Jeffrey, whether it was herbal consultation and I told him how to use certain herbs, or putting in ear seeds, or I did a tongue diagnosis and what were the results of the tongue diagnosis, whether I gave him acupressure points. Jeffrey's concerns, right? Jeffrey had a headache. Jeffrey talked about his headache, right? All of that is going to be documented, okay? And of course, there's going to be your assessment as part of that documentation. Add it all in there, right? 2 minutes before, 10 minutes with Jeffrey, 5 minutes to document, add it all up, 17 minutes. Okay, now what do I do with it? The method that I used to talk to Jeffrey was digital. Jeffrey was sitting in front of me. I was seeing Jeffrey. I heard Jeffrey. Jeffrey was hearing me. This is called a live stream video, okay, where we can both hear each other, versus what we had during this session, right, before. Jeffrey can hear me, but Jeffrey couldn't talk, okay? So you need to make sure you're using a live stream video. As you can see before, most likely, most of your insurance companies probably will not allow phone calls because the state themselves suggested they shouldn't. However, because I spent 17 minutes with Jeffrey, I'm going to look at, okay, where do my 17 minutes fall? Oh, they fall on the category of 11 to 20. Okay, I'm going to charge for code 99422. That's what I'm going to charge for. Okay, you need to see where your minutes fall and which range category those minutes fall into. If you spend more than 21 minutes, guess what? Whether you spend 21 minutes or an hour and a half with Jeffrey on the phone, you're getting paid absolutely the same thing. Okay? Now, what do the insurance companies pay? What we are seeing is that they pay between $50 to $70, depending on the insurance company, depending on where your office is located or where you are located. Because what the insurance company does is they look at the area that you're located and what's reasonable and customary in that area. There will probably be a difference of $1 or $2 between those states, between the counties that you got practicing in. So.
And then can you oh, sorry, what was that?
Go ahead, no?
I was going to say, would you also quickly just go back over how to calculate the amount to bill the insurance company?
Absolutely, right? So we know, I know if I start talking about RVUs, but I think explaining RVUs may be more complicated than what we really need to know on how to calculate the formula of what to charge, right? So if we look at what we charge today for one set of needling, I charge $50. Okay. With that said, I'm going to look at 99421, and I'm going to say, wow, it's worth about 43% of that 97810. Well, 43% for me, it's a little hard to calculate in math. I'm just going to round it down to 40%. It's easier. I'm going to take 40% of the $50 and come up with that amount. Similar to that, I'm going to take 99422 and I'm going to calculate 80%, okay, of what I charge for one set of needling. And for the last code, it's actually worth more than one set of needling. So I add $10, $20 on top of what I charge for one set of needling. And voila, I got a formula.
All right. Well, we got more questions coming in. So let's see. Next one, do we know if our telemedicine is reimbursable under flexible healthcare spending accounts and HSA?
So, well, okay. HSA and flex spending are two different things. Let's talk about HSA first, okay? And then we'll talk about flex spending because it's two different things. HSA is, when do we have HSA plans? Let's explain first what an HSA plan is. HSA plans usually are plans that have a really low premium with a really high deductible. So if I don't usually go to the doctor, and I don't want to pay $1,000 premium every month just so I have insurance because I barely go to the doctor, okay? So I'm going to look for a plan that has a really, really, really low premium, maybe $100 a month. But insurance company, they're smart and they are a business and they want to make money. So they know that I only pay $100 a month. Some way or another, they're going to need to make sure that they're not paying for my session. So what do? They give me a really high deductible, like a $10,000 deductible. And I'm okay with it because you know what? I don't go to the doctor and I'm going to be saving $900 every month. And that $900 that I'm never going to get back from the insurance company is going to be sitting in my account, not in the insurance company's account. So I'm okay with the $10,000 because I barely go to the doctor. That's called an HSA plan. Premiums are the premiums, and I'll talk about HSA in a second because that's going to lead us into the HSA plan. Those plans allow you to put money in a separate account also, which is tax deductible. So I can pay for my very, very high, okay, deductible. There's a limit of how much you can put per year, okay? So let's say I put $3,000 in a separate bank account, okay? That money is to be used to pay my co-pays, my co-insurance, and my deductibles. You'll see the many, many large corporations also give money towards their employees' HSA to put in account. And that's really to help them with their large deductibles that they have, because when an employee selects a plan with a really high deductible and a low premium, guess who benefits from it? The employer, because they also pays less for that particular plan. Now, I know that's not what you asked me, so I'm going to go back because that was a very long answer. So HSA, you need to have the covered benefit under HSA in order for you to get paid for telemedicine. So it doesn't really matter if it's an HSA plan or not. HSA just means that you have another account that helps you pay for high deductible or co-insurance. But if a patient doesn't have an acupuncture benefit under that particular plan, for the most part, they probably will not be covered for telemedicine. Now, let's talk about flex spending. Flex spending is money that you, not your employer, you particularly also put on a credit card. And different than an HSA. HSA, if you don't use the money, guess what? It can roll over to the next year. The next 12 months after you didn't use it, you can even invest it in a 401k type plan. You can invest it in funds. But flex money, you snooze, you lose. It's money that you put aside. You don't use it, you lose it. However, if you do have a benefit, a medical service that is not covered under your plan, flex benefits, for the most part, will cover it. It covers a nose job or any other such thing, but they will cover this type of procedures such as telemedicine, especially if your acupuncturist isn't built for it and you weren't, you didn't get paid. he didn't get paid or she didn't get paid. So yes, it will cover.
All right. Well, thank you for all the detail.
Sure. A very long answer. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's great. That's why we're here. Next question. If I can offer laser acupuncture, would that be covered? My guess would be that they would, I somehow get the laser to the patient and then, talk the patient through how to do the points.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be covered as long, again, as acupuncture is a covered benefit, right? So insurance companies don't just pay you for telemedicine just because we're all offering we're on this telemedicine wave now. No, you need to have that benefits under the plan. And if the patient selected a plan that doesn't cover acupuncture, they probably will not be covered for telemedicine. And you have to remember that these plans are cherry picked. Okay, you can select what's covered under your plan. The premium is based on what you are selecting for your plan. So, yes.
And actually, sorry, I just saw a follow-up on that question, and it was not telemedicine. It was just, but can laser acupuncture be considered the same as needle acupuncture in the eyes of insurance companies?
No. The law says insertion of needles. So, no.
Okay, that is an answer. All right, let me see if there's anything else in the chats before we let you go on for the day. Let's see. Why not just bill your regular price and let them reimburse you what they're going to reimburse?
You can bill whatever you want. I'm just telling you what the insurance company values these codes as, right? So you can bill whatever you want, right? This formula is based on what the insurance company, these particular procedures in comparison to one set of needling. You want to charge $1 million for these codes? Go for it, right? But insurance companies always look at what's reasonable and customary. And they also, look at the value in comparison. And I chose one set of needling because we are acupuncturists. We charge for one set of needling and we know what we charge. So I figured it would be easiest for you to calculate based on that.
Okay. And then do these visits count towards their regular allotment of visits? They are allowed annually?
No. So what we are seeing is that you have to remember that these are evaluation versus acupuncture. This is not by no means an acupuncture session. You as an acupuncturist provided those sessions. However, it's not an acupuncture session. It's an evaluation session. If your patient, and that's what I mentioned when you do call to verify patient's coverage, if your patient only has one evaluation per year, then yes, I would call and ask if it takes away instead of that particular evaluation. However, it does not take away from your acupuncture session. The only place that it's away from your acupuncture session is VAs, right? VA gives you a limit on the sets, and whether you do it this way or putting extra needles, it does take away.
Alrighty. And then somebody wants to know about acupressure. Can you use the same codes as acupuncture for an acupressure session?
Doing this telemedicine or being in the office?
I'm not 100% sure. She didn't say.
So if somebody can give follow-up on that, I'll be happy to answer.
Right, Lauren, if you can, she says in the office.
No, they're different codes. Totally different.
Okay, so there is a different code for acupressure instead of acupuncture. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then next question. If I have patients use press tags on acupuncture points as guided by me in a telemedicine appointment, is that acupuncture or is that considered telemedicine?
So I don't care what your patients are doing across via video, whether you tell them to take a needle and actually needle themselves. Guess what? We are not doing these needles. Therefore, it does not constitute as acupuncture. You are actually guiding them. The thought that you are guiding them is considered evaluation. You are not in that room with the patient providing the services that you usually would be providing, which is actually needling or acupressure, tuina, maxa. You're not doing it yourselves. Therefore, you cannot use your regular codes. You have to use the telemedicine codes or the evaluation codes as we know them. But you also have to remember that you have to be careful with what you allow your patient to do. Especially you went to school and there is things that you learned in school as to how to needle. These patients did not go to school. We have malpractice insurance for a reason. And so God forbid something happens, you have to be careful in what you let your patients do. So yeah, patients can give themselves Maxa. Do I want them burning themselves by mistake with Maxa? Probably not. So you need to figure out what's the right and reasonable limit to let these patients do. They don't have a master's in acupuncture, you do. So just be reasonable.
And now a lot of people have doctorates in acupuncture too.
Exactly.
And actually, Linda, who may still be the current president of the Massachusetts Society for Acupuncture, just said needles are regulated medical devices and should not be made available to patients. That would be her stance. And thank you, Linda, for chatting, and nice to see you. Alrighty. Well, I do not see any other questions in here, and I just want to take some time and say thank you very much for all of your help today. Thank you to everybody for coming, for participating, for asking such wonderful questions. So Sarit's company, as she said, is AllAcuServices, LLC. I'm going to throw the company name or the website into the chat again. So we are also continuing to offer a variety of different sessions for different types of things. So it could be telemedicine, it could just be fun acupuncture webinars. Tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be hosting Michelle Gellis for changing the face of our practice and adding cosmetic treatments into your telemedicine services. So that'll be 7:30 p.m. this evening. And then we'll have a lot of other fun content for you coming up. At the end of the month, John is going to be doing his third webinar on coronavirus. So stay tuned for details for that. Sarit, again, thank you as always for your time. I will see you tomorrow. And I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.